This is Dr. Don White, and this podcast provides an overview of how to complete a formal and informal observation within the DuPage Regional Office of Education Evaluation tool. As you may recall from a previous podcast, this file has already been set up to be used throughout the year. To complete a formal observation, the first step is to go to the blue worksheet called Formal Observation 1. You'll notice that there are several red cells. The information at the top has been completed previously, so there's no reason to populate that information. In fact, if you try to enter information, you will get an error. To change this information, you need to visit a previous worksheet at the beginning of this file. As previously stated, it's important to pay attention to the comment boxes to the right. Notice the yellow one. It says you must enter a formal observation date or the program will not work correctly. I'm going to explain more about that in just a moment. The directions for entering this information are included on the right-hand side in the yellow box. The first step is to select the preset objectives or the indicators that you will be looking for as part of this formal observation of the administrator. I typically call the administrator and ask for an overview of what I will be observing during the formal observation. While the administrator provides the overview, I spend time at my computer looking at the indicators to determine which one would match what the administrator is describing. For the purposes of this discussion, I will be selecting the first 3 indicators. Notice that the cells turn white once I select information. You will also notice yellow boxes to the right appear in some cases. I'll explain more about that in just a moment. So I've selected the 3 preset objectives, and now I'm ready to complete the formal observation. I wait until the day of the formal observation. I take my computer with me, and down at the bottom where it says Additional Observation Notes Feedback, I simply type in this box the information as I see it during the observation. After the observation is complete, I go back to the top. This doesn't need to be done while you're in the room. I typically do it the next morning. And then I look at the indicator and reflect on the notes from the meeting down below. And then I either retype or copy and paste some information that I believe applies to the preset objective that was selected. I would do that for each of the 3 preset objectives. The next step is to select the overall rating for the preset objective. For our demonstration, I'm going to select Distinguished, Proficient, and Basic. Now to the yellow boxes that appeared on the right. It says, Indicator not selected on Indicator Selection Worksheet. Notify administrator that this indicator will be included. What that's referring to is back to the worksheet titled Indicator Selection. Notice that I selected P-Cell 1A for the first preset objective, and that indicator warning appeared on the right-hand side in the yellow box. When I go back to the indicator selection and look at P-Cell 1A, Mission, Vision, and Core Values, notice that I have not selected that. If I now select it as a yes, that I do want to include it, it turns green here, and then when I go back to my formal observation form, the yellow box is gone. I'm going to turn that back the way that it was back on the indicator selection worksheet. And return to the formal observation worksheet. And notice that the yellow is back. This was important to the team that developed this tool so that the administrator understood that the evaluator was going to be using something that wasn't pre-selected at the beginning of the year. This is often the case when an administrator needs to cover information that's not directly related to what was discussed at the beginning of the year. The notification in this case will be upcoming when I email a PDF of this formal observation worksheet to the administrator. To complete this formal evaluation form, I need to make sure that all of the red cells have been completed. Down near the bottom, notice that it says Date Feedback Delivered to Administrator. I'm going to enter the date that I will email this to the administrator. And then I also can select whether or not I would like signature lines on this form that I will be printing as a PDF or printing out on a printer. It says select yes or no to the right. If I would like a signature line, I select yes for both of these areas. And you'll notice that the signature lines appear at the bottom of the form. I typically do not require my signature or the signature of the person I'm evaluating. Something else I want to point out about the formal observation form, and that is the indicators that I select for the formal observations and then the subsequent rating that I provided as part of this formal observation will appear back on the professional practice ratings worksheet. That will only happen if I enter the date of the evaluation. Again, the yellow box to the right that says you must enter a formal observation date or the program will not work correctly. I'm going to go back to the professional practice ratings worksheet and look at P-Cell 1A. That's one of those that I selected on my formal observation. Underneath in smaller print it says formal observation 1, formal observation 2, and formal observation 3. And then it says informal observation 1, informal 2, and informal 3. Notice that there's nothing populated in this area for P-Cell 1A. In order for it to populate correctly for P-Cell 1A, the distinguished rating is what I'm referring to populate correctly, I need to enter the date in this area of when the observation occurred. So once I enter the date on the formal observation form, and I scroll down just to make sure, no more red cells. So my formal observation form is completed, and when I go back to the professional practice ratings worksheet, now you can tell where it says formal observation 1, the administrator received a distinguished rating on P-Cell 1A on July 4th, 2019. Which is the date of the first formal observation. There are 3 formal observation forms within the program, and there are 3 informal observation forms within the program. The informal observation form works very similar to the formal observation form. However, it's structured a little different in that I will just keep notes in the area called informal observation notes. And then after the fact, I will select indicators that refer to those notes. For the purposes of this demonstration, let's say that I'm going to select P-Cell 1D, 1E, and 1F. Again, notice that a yellow box appears on the right if I've selected an indicator that was not selected at the beginning of the year. I need to select a rating for each of them. Enter the date that I'm sending this to the administrator. Select whether I would like signature lines on this worksheet. And don't forget to enter the date of the observation so that the ratings appear back on the professional practice ratings worksheet. And now, because I have completed informal observation 1, I can scroll back to the professional practice ratings worksheet, and for the informal observation 1 for P-Cell 1D, you can see that there is a basic rating. For 1E was distinguished and the date that it occurred, and the same for P-Cell 1F. That's a basic overview of how to use the formal and informal observation forms within the file. Thank you.